Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to Queen City. I'm David Jones. I am the Sergeant at Arms. I have a lot of different titles in Toastmaster. I had to think about it for a minute. Is anybody here a military? I know you are. Any other former? Great. Well, it's not a pity party, but my stepfather passed away and I went to his funeral last week, and he was a doctor in the Army. And it was such a beautiful funeral. I don't know if you've been to a military funeral, but I mean, that's the way to go out. They were so respectful and honorable and had the flag and brought it over. I'd never experienced one, but it was very beautiful. So if you ever know anybody that passes away in their military, try to go to the funeral because it's worth it, definitely. So, as always, bathrooms are behind me. If you could silence your phones. Our friends over here at STEPS, which is a Weight Watchers type program. In the middle of somebody's speech, they're going to come out walking, talking, making lots of noise. That's just part of public speaking. So just roll with it. We've talked to them before, but maybe it's better that they do make all the noise. So it's good. I do not see our club president. Therefore, I'm going to turn it over to our presiding officer, which is our vice president of education, avid golfer. Please welcome Eric Laxer.
Thank you, Toastmaster David, and good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honorable guests. I am the presiding officer of the meeting today, and it is my responsibility to do a couple of things. The first thing is to welcome all of you. The second thing is to offer a special welcome to our guests and give our guests an opportunity to just introduce themselves. If you are a guest at our club meeting today, whether you're online or here, please raise your hand so I know who you are. Fantastic. We have 2.5 guests. Shannon's kind of a guest, so we'll include you there. And online, do we have anybody who's a guest? Okay, fantastic. So you are in for a fun and exciting evening, and everybody sitting in this room has been a guest at a Toastmasters meeting at one time or another, because we all were before we joined. So if you have any questions, please ask somebody who's beside you or speak to me after the meeting. So I just want to start with our guests online, and I'm sorry, but I don't see your name there. But if you wouldn't mind, please unmute yourself and you can share with us if this is your first Toastmasters meeting, how you heard about our group, and what you're looking to get out of the meeting tonight.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, my name is Jeremiah Hopes, and my daughter may be joining me also. I heard about Toastmasters through my accountant and the events and activities, and my daughter is interested in being an actress, voice talent, audiobook reader, YouTube influencer, all that kind of stuff. And so I thought this might be good for her also to build some confidence and connection.
Thank you. Welcome. It's Jeremiah, correct?
Correct. And my daughter's
Okay.
name is Destiny.
Okay, and if we see her on, we'll give her a chance to introduce herself as well. And I'm now going to come out into the audience and ask Stephen, correct? Okay, please join me in welcoming Stephen as one of our guests.
Good evening, everybody. As you said, my name is Stephen. Last name is Williams. I'm here because I would like to be a more natural speaker. I think I'm reasonably articulate, but I get a little bit of anxiety sometimes when having conversation. I would just like to develop that ability and be a little bit more gregarious, I think.
Thank you, Stephen. We are delighted you could join us. And I'm going to come all the way to the back of the room here. And if you could please just share. We're going to go back to Shannon. Yes. Okay. If you could please do the same. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carissa. This is my second time here, but my first time ever doing a public speaking class. To be honest, I almost didn't come because I went to a workout class and I burnt myself out, but I made a commitment. So I'm here and I'm proud of myself for that. I work in healthcare, so I'm not giving speeches. I'm not in the boardroom every day. So this is a completely new acquired skill for me. And I look forward to being here many more times. Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. Okay, and now Shannon, if you could please introduce yourself and feel free to share anything that you'd like with us this evening.
Hi, my name is Shannon. Been a Toastmaster for quite a while. Took a few years off as a hiatus during work. I need to talk to you because I'm planning on joining, and I'm told you're the man to talk to. I'm going through life changes right now that make me feel like Robin Williams. And it's either drink myself to death or make the main stage next year at the World Championship. So I'm throwing down the gauntlet. This is my year to be serious and go for the World Championship of public speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. And I think we have one more guest who came in. And normally we just have guests introduce themselves. I'm Eric, and I'm the Vice President of Education. And if you don't mind just standing up and how you found out about us and anything else you'd like to share.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, my name's Kendall. This is a second class, or I guess, yeah, second Toastmasters class. I think me and Carissa, we came in the same time. But yeah, I joined because I wanted to be a better speaker, have better communication, not say a lot of ums and uhs like I am right now. But I had found out about Toastmasters at my job. They were starting it up there, and that was before COVID. But then COVID happened, and they ended up not having it. So now that they have like in-person sessions now, I wanted to join it and work on my public speaking skills. So.
Thank you. Let me just make sure no new guests joined us online, and I think that's it for the time being. So for those guests, every Toastmaster meeting has the same structure. You'll see members fulfilling different roles that we all signed up for. And one of the most important roles of every meeting is the person who leads and hosts the meeting. And that person is known as the Toastmaster of the day. Part of what they do is choose a theme, share some information about their theme with us, and then introduce other people participating in the meeting. And it's a wonderful role to play. And every time I hear this Toastmaster of the day speak, I learn something because he does it with energy, with intelligence, and in a very entertaining way. So I know you will really enjoy having this person as much as I do as our Toastmaster. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to John Capello.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Eric, for that warm welcome. It is my absolute pleasure to serve as your Toastmaster of the day. For you guests, as it was explained, I'll be your guide for this evening to lead you through the three distinct parts: our prepared speeches, our impromptu section, and finally, our evaluations. Now, my favorite part of being Toastmaster is I get to come up with the theme. And for tonight, my theme is, what was that again? Oh yeah, now I remember. Without insulting your intelligence, and yes, this is somewhat of a trick question, can someone tell me what this is? Be more specific. I heard it. Who said it? A number 2 pencil. Now, if you're old enough as David and I are, you remember when standardized tests involved filling in those little bubbles. And apparently a number 1 pencil just wasn't good enough. Only a number 2 pencil, the proper mixture of clay and graphite. Yes, it's not lead. I learned that last night. Interesting fun fact. That was required in order to stick these tests into the grading system and for your answer to be properly recorded. So I thought of this pencil last week when I was having a heart-to-heart moment with my son. My son's 11 years old and he's going through went through his 5th grade, end of grade academic assessment exam. And I could tell he was getting a little anxious about it. And I thought, here is my dad teachable moment. I have to be able to give him something that will help him conquer not just this test, but something, just all tests in life. So I'm scrolling through online and I find this inspirational metaphor. And this inspirational metaphor was something, what it was how to attack life and its tests explained through this simple pencil. I delivered these 3 life lessons to him and it resonated very well. And I thought to myself, I'm going to share it with Queen City. That is my theme tonight. How to tackle life. 3 life lessons that I'm going to share with you, explained all through this simple pencil. But before I do, I'm going to welcome up a few of my fellow Toastmasters serving in supporting roles who are going to make tonight a great meeting. Now, first up, who is often serving in the inspirational role, a role that I quite enjoy, is my fellow Toastmaster, the always thoughtful Allie Brooke, who I believe is online. Allie?
Thank you, John. Hello, fellow Toastmasters, honored guest. Excited to share with you an inspirational thought message. I was reading a quote and I thought this would be something relevant to bring up today. And it's a quote from Brené Brown. So, true belonging never asks us to change who we are. True belonging requires us to be who we are. So I was thinking about this. To truly belong, we must have the courage to embrace our uniqueness and our passions and our vulnerabilities. It's about accepting ourselves and our flaws and understanding that our worthiness does not depend on an external validation. We don't have to mold ourselves into somebody else's box or seek approval. True belonging is a powerful force. It doesn't demand us to change who we are, but rather it calls us to be unapologetically ourselves. Thank you.
Way to kick us off, Allie. Always very thoughtful and inspirational indeed. Now, to help mind us of our P's and Q's, to make sure that we are maintaining the proper grammar, please help me welcome to the stage to explain his role as grammarian, David Jones.
Thank you, John. Here at Queen City, we're also looking, because we got rid of our ballot counter role, we're going to maybe split up our grammarian role, because grammarian listens for your so, you knows, the improper use of words instead of a pause. We also listen for good usages of words or phrases. In addition, we have the word of the day. And I've been to other clubs where we have a word master who's in charge of the word of the day, and then we have a grammarian. So we have 2 different roles that I think we're going to split up into the near future. But my word of the day is accountability. We're talking about taking tests and learning from life. And sometimes in life, we have to be accountable for ourselves. So today's word is accountability. Whenever you come up here, if you could try to use the word accountability. For instance, our guest said that she was accountable to come here today, even though she didn't want to. And she was, I don't want to assume that you were working out and all sweaty, but she came anyway. So she was accountable to herself. And that is it. And I'll respond when I am called upon at the end of the meeting. Mr. Toastmaster. Sir.
All righty. Thank you, David. Now, it is often said that time is money. And to save a little bit of cash, let's bring up our timer this evening, our Toastmaster, Jeff Naris.
Sir, thank you very much. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests.
I apologize. This is my first time being the timer, so I might get this a little bit wrong, but tonight I'll be reviewing your speeches and timing your speeches. What we're going to do is do a little stoplight here. So at a green light, you have hit our expected goal for you for your speech tonight. That's going to be at a minute, or it just depends on the speech. Next will be a yellow light, meaning you went a little bit beyond the expectation, which is perfect and you can keep going. Red light, meaning you have hit the ultimate time we can give you tonight, and I will come up and tackle you to make sure you stop talking. No, that is amazing that you've hit that expectation and goal for yourself. And red light is something we try not to achieve when we get to a red light, but hey, when you get there, it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. So at this moment, I'll hand the mic back over to John, and best of luck tonight.
Thank you, sir. All right. Thank you, Jeff. Now, I promised you life lessons from this pencil. Ways, life hacks that we can handle life tests. So let's examine this pencil for a moment. When you utilize this pencil, it often can become dull, and it requires resharpening in order to stay useful. Similarly, in life, we will face our own tests, our own resharpening moments. They will be challenging. They will probably be downright painful. But it's through facing these moments head on that we build the strength of our character. We come out stronger and more useful as a result. Now, when both of my parents passed at relatively young ages, I no longer had the access to the ability to lean on their unwavering support, guidance, and love. I had to make my own decisions. I had to trust my own gut, be my own guidance counselor, if you will, so that I could strengthen my own mental fortitude, my own mental will. Never forget that sometimes you will face your resharpening moment that you will need to go through, because we grow through what we go through. That's number one, folks. If you want to hear number two and number three, you'll have to stay with me, because at this time, we're going to move on to the main event, our prepared speeches. And we got a couple of veterans tonight, so I'm extremely excited. First up, joining us from as area director and a very experienced Toastmaster, who will be giving her first speech, level 1 speech in Engaging Humor Pathway, a speech entitled Whose House? Our House. Please help me welcome to the stage Dr. Carla Jones.
Greetings, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I'm going to take you through a fictional journey of a head basketball coach who has just experienced the worst loss of their career in a game-ending season. You all are my athletes, by the way. Good evening, dear athletes. Before we get on this bus and take this 3-hour ride home, I want to give you a little bit of encouragement and inspiration about this game that we lost. But loss is an understatement. What happened? Let's recap a few things. We combined for 50 fouls, 30 turnovers, and 10 technical fouls. The final score was 70-2. You scored 2 points in the final 3 minutes of this game, like you just won the gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics. David, you had 3 technical fouls. You were ejected from the game with 3 minutes remaining in the game. I'm just shocked. I'm completely shocked. John? A foul is a foul. Offense sells tickets, defense wins games. Carissa, don't try to dunk anymore. It's just not working. What I want you to do is, when I say whose house, I want you to say our house. Are you ready? Whose house? Our house. Good job. I want you to take accountability for your mistakes. Let me provide you with some future direction and a little bit of encouragement. When I was in the 8th grade, I was in PE class and they lined us up on the line, had to start off and run as fast as we could. Do you know how sad it is to be last out of 25 students? That was me. I tried out for numerous teams. Even the track coach asked me to run track. He was a geometry teacher. That gives you a little background on that situation. Basketballs packed in my face because I was too short to play basketball. But the cultivated experience was when I was playing softball. I hit the ball, started running for first base, and I heard someone yell, "Is she running in slow motion?" That was the end for me. I'm average at all sports, I even suck at some. But what I am is a good coach. The worst athletes make the best coaches, and the best athletes makes the worst coaches. I know my limitations, but do you? Do you know your limitations? Raise your hands if you know your limitations. Apparently you do not. 70-2. Whose house? Our house. Picture it. Fayetteville, 1978. A hot August day. A mother looked at her child and knew that a star athlete was born. The star athlete tried out for several sports, got kicked off of several teams. You know what? She never gave up. You know who that star athlete was? You. Let me give you some words of encouragement. Regardless of the scoreboard, you're going to be successful because you put in all the time and effort and all the hard work, and it's going to pay off. Wins and losses come a dime a dozen, but effort, no one can judge that because it's between you and you. Don't give up. Never give up. North Carolina State University, Jim Van Vino, men's basketball coach. Whose house? Lastly, if you first you don't succeed, just quit. Quit and play an instrument, join the chorus. That's what I do. It's maybe really bad advice, so I'm gonna bring that back in. If you don't succeed at sports, you can become the water boy. You can be the commissioner of a team, because we know none of them have athletic experience, right? What else can you do? You can also work in the front office, or you can be like me, you can be a coach. I know I said you sucked at the beginning of my speech, and I probably yelled at you. If I didn't say you sucked out loud, then I was saying it internally, and now I'm voicing it externally. I want to encourage you to be better, but let's not forget 70-2. We can do better, right? We will do better, right? The championship will be ours one day. We shall see the mountaintop, because whose house? Ours. My last quote. If you hit a man in time, his wounds will heal. If you steal from a man, you can replace what you've stolen. But always cross in the green and never in between, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Always remember, my brother, 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish, knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone, 2000 party, oop, out of time, my bacon smelling fine. We're gonna win next season, right? We're gonna practice. We're gonna run fast. We're gonna run hard because whose house? Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carla, showing us how it's done, folks. Showing us how it's done. Thank you again. Okay, next up is our second speaker. He is also a veteran, a current treasurer of Queen City Toastmasters, giving his speech entitled Neurodiversity. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Jamie Richardson.
Good. All right. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Thank you for having me here tonight. So from a show of hands, who's seen the movie Rain Man? Okay, fair number of us. So that movie, the basic plot, if you haven't seen it, there's two brothers, and the younger brothers, played by Tom Cruise, has to build a relationship with and eventually learn how to take care of his older brother, played by Dustin Hoffman, who's autistic. And when I first saw that movie, I thought it was a fascinating glimpse into autism, a condition that I didn't really understand at the time. They did a good job of highlighting some of the challenges that autistic individuals face, like an ultra sensitivity to sounds and difficulty making eye contact. They also highlighted some of the unique strengths that autistic people possess, like a photographic memory and strength around math and numbers. And it led to some very memorable scenes. In one, the character Ray, the autistic character, drops a box of toothpicks on the floor and is able to instantly count that there are 246 toothpicks in that box. And while that made for good cinema, I was left at the end wondering, what happens to Ray? What does his life look like? Does he have a career? Does he have a job? So that led me to do some research. And it turns out that the character Ray is actually a true person. His name was Kim Peek. He was an autistic individual in Utah, and he was considered a savant. And by savant, what that means is by 18 months old, he was able to read a book and memorize it instantly. He was able to listen to a song and memorize every single note and then play it for the rest of his life on the piano. So truly unique talents and gifts. And since that movie came out, there's been a renewed appreciation and awareness of the natural variations of the human brain. And there's in fact been a term, neurodiversity, my speech title. And what neurodiversity encompasses are conditions like autism, Asperger's, ADHD, and even dyslexia. And the reality is, within this room, potentially up to 30 to 40% of us have some sort of neurodiverse condition. And what neurodiversity does, it challenges the idea that these are disabilities, challenges the idea that in fact there's anything such as a normal mind or a typical mind, and that instead these are just different ways of experiencing and perceiving the world. So today I'm going to highlight some of the unique talents that neurodiverse individuals possess, as well as give you some amazing examples of what these people can accomplish if given an opportunity. We'll start with the first. Neurodiverse individuals exhibit great attention to detail. Let me give you an example. There is an artist named Stephen Wiltshire in England, and he is famous for being able to see a painting and then instantly recreate it from memory. He took a 5-minute helicopter ride over the city of London and was able to draw down to exacting detail the number on the houses for 4 city blocks, all from memory. Perhaps there's no more famous example of this attention to detail, than Elon Musk, who is identified as having Asperger's. And he credits that relentless focus on the details for the success that he's had in all of his companies. He lets no stone go unturned. Everything is about the details for him. 2, neurodiverse individuals, as I said, exhibit exceptional memories. This is my favorite. There is a 7-year-old autistic boy who has memorized the details of shipwrecks. Not one shipwreck, not a few shipwrecks, every shipwreck in history. How amazing is the human brain to allow someone to know the details of every single shipwreck in history? A 7-year-old autistic boy. There's another great example, David Bowie's. He's in a, not the pop musician, though that would probably explain some things as well. But no, this is an attorney, and he's famous. He actually prosecuted the tobacco companies in the class action lawsuits. And he had dyslexia, and to the point where he almost couldn't read as a kid. But he honed his memory, he honed his ability to synthesize information, and that's allowed him to be an exceptionally successful attorney, to the point where he can quote verbatim from case law down to the page number. Third, neurodiverse individuals, when they find their passion, are incredibly driven to pursue it, and allows them to be very productive, as well as build specialized expertise. Another great example here, Temple Grandin. She was an autistic woman. I don't know if anyone's heard of her. She was misdiagnosed as a child with brain damage, in fact. She was she was expelled from school and almost institutionalized. It wasn't until later in life that she found her true calling, which was livestock management. And she actually credits her autism with giving her unique insights into the behaviors of animals. So for example, she knew that they were more comfortable, cattle, or more comfortable moving through narrow winding paths. And that revolutionized the entire industry, made it more humane, made it safer. She went on to become a famous public speaker. I definitely encourage you to look her up, and had a movie made about her life. Also a great movie, I encourage you to watch it. Fourth, neurodiverse individuals have, no surprise, a unique capacity for innovation. We've talked about how they fundamentally think differently than other individuals. That allows them to make connections that other people might miss. A great example here is Paul Orfalia. He was the founder of Kinko's. Some of you may not know what Kinko's is, because I feel like that's kind of gone the way of the dodo. But from some of you who do, it was a famous copy company where you were able to go in and get online and get your copies made. And he had ADHD and dyslexia, so he failed multiple grades. And while he boasts to this day that he doesn't even know how to work his own copiers because of some of those challenges, he also credits ADHD with a relentless focus on understanding his customers' needs and then developing innovative solutions to meet those. So as you can tell, no surprise with the accomplishments of some individuals like these, companies are starting to take note. Microsoft has a program for autistic individuals, but they have had to adapt their interview practices accordingly. They can't rely on standard social cues that autistic individuals might struggle with, and instead have to focus on skills and capabilities. JP Morgan also has a program, and they found that autistic individuals performed better than some of their peers, 50% faster at tasks, 90% more productive. So for all of you who are in positions where you could potentially be recruiting or hiring or mentoring neurodiverse individuals, I encourage all of you to take some level of accountability for that, seek it out, find ways that these individuals could contribute to your companies. There's a whole inventory of companies who found a lot of success doing just that. With that, I will leave you with a quote, again from Paul Orfalia, the founder of Kinko's, who said, "How many innovators, I wonder, are lost to us simply because their talents cannot be accurately perceived or measured." Thank you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jamie. I appreciate you holding us accountable with your message on embracing neurodiversity. At this time, I'd like to call up Toastmaster Jeff to provide us a timer's report.
Excellent speeches to both of you. Carla, I have you at 6 minutes and 13 seconds, and Jamie, 7 minutes, and 14 seconds. Great job to both of you.
Excellent. Well, it's back to this pencil. The second life hack. Let's examine the other end. The second life lesson that we can learn from this pencil is the eraser. This is something that allows us to quickly, immediately correct our mistakes. It's an ever-present reminder that nothing is in ink. Nothing is permanent. Now, we will all make mistakes. We will all fail at something. But failure is not final, and failure is not the opposite of success. I'd argue it's the requirement of success. But what we need to do is to fail better, to fail faster, and to fail forward. And we do that by learning and quickly correcting our mistakes. Now, when I first bombed a sales presentation, it negatively impacted my career, but is what prompted me to join Toastmasters. And by coming here for the last 5 years and beating the important disciplines of Toastmasters into my brain, I am hopefully able to correct those mistakes quickly. Do I still make them? Absolutely. But at least I can correct and change my course quickly. Always remember, you have the eraser. Nothing's in ink. And perhaps that's only fitting as we move on to our next portion of tonight's meeting, the impromptu section, where we embrace, both as members and guests, to enter into the no judgment zone up here in the form of our impromptu speaking. And to lead us in that effort, I'm going to welcome, as the table topics master, Toastmaster Bill Fowler.
Well, good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. I'm Bill Fountain. I have the privilege of being the master of the table topics. And one of the areas I want to talk about today is that first thing is I'll be introducing a theme, and then I will ask for volunteers to come up, and then you'll be asked to answer one of my questions, and you have 1 to 2 minutes to do an impromptu speech. So it's one of these opportunities to think on your feet, okay? Now, picking up some of the things off the themes that we've just been hearing about, one of the table topics forums today is how to, or ways to improve ourselves. And I like the idea of sharpening yourself is one of the ideas on that, or using these opportunities where you do stumble a little bit and you'll be able to correct yourself. And that was one thing I remember, add a little bit here, but as a teacher, that was one of the things that we were told by our principal is go out there, try something different, try something new. And if it fails, you've learned something and you'll be able to go back and hopefully remedy that situation. Well, bettering yourself is something that's important to maybe to advance your career or your professional goals. You know, what are the things that you may want to have in mind. For instance, like you may want to take a certification course to increase the field that you're in, to increase your opportunities for promotion. Also, by taking steps to improve yourself, you can acquire skills that are outside of your normal routine or out of the normal traditional education and occupational skills. And some of those are soft skills, which are like, you know, being able to, I guess, communication is a soft skill, and how to deal with people, how to be friendly. And I think we have some excellent people here that do that regularly. So, butterfly, yes. And so also one of the other things is by being, these improvements can really help you, I think, in your, like I said, in your job performance, and hopefully to be able to get a promotion. All right. Now, you've all heard of some of our leaders here who use the leadership positions within Toastmasters to further their careers because they held leadership positions and moved on and able to expand their careers. We've had several testimonials to that. Some of the ways that we have to improve ourselves and make more accountable to ourselves is one is reading often, adopting a new hobby, sign up for a training session, identifying in-demand skills, and trying a new schedule, committing to an exercise routine, setting big goals, or changing your mindset, or finding a mentor. Now, with those things in mind, I would like to have a volunteer to come up who wants to try this to be able to answer our first question. Anybody? There we go. Here we go, please. Yes, you can use that if you want, or just, this thing right here, I think is working, all right? Okay. Just not on the board.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Bill.
All right.
Ready when you are.
Let me give you a little lead into it. First is reading often. It helps you gain more insight into your field and develop a strategic vision to manage your career. Now, here's the question. Now tell us what subject area would interest you in expanding your strategic vision and why? I'll repeat it. What subject area would interest you in expanding your strategic vision and why?
So what subject area, personal or professional, that would aid me in expanding my strategic vision and why? Well, thank you very much for the question. I fear that I may not be answering it as precisely as you might expect, but for me, I'm always trying to broaden my horizons. So I grew up in Northeast Ohio in a suburb, but I spent the majority of my time on my grandparents' corn and soybean farm in Northeastern Ohio. So naturally, my worldview as a result of that was fairly limited. My imagination extended just to the boundaries of my grandparents' roughly 225-acre farm. And as I grew up and as I matured, I realized that there were different lifestyles, different beliefs, different principles that people all across not only our country, but the world adhere to in the course of their daily lives. And I wanted to expose myself to that. And so it was with that my wife and I moved overseas to Asia when I graduated from college. But that desire still remains very strong within me. And so every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is I drink a glass of water, and then I take my dog on a brief walk. But then I'll also read the BBC. And the reason I choose to read the BBC is because it maintains a global perspective in its news. It also maintains a pretty diverse array of topics, from self-improvement to deep dives into very technical topics, very infatuated with the diverse buffet of information that the BBC provides. And I think that, unfortunately, a drawback of living in a country as large as ours is that our imagination and our social narrative often extends only to the boundaries of our country. And so I wake up and I read the BBC to start my day. That's my little breakfast routine for my morning. And it helps me put some of the things that I might see or encounter or hear about with regards to American life in perspective. Although there might not be very much professional bearing on that practice, personally, I find it very enriching, and I think it contributes to a level of balance that I strive to maintain.
Thank you. Very good. Like that, I was using that farm where they've been, well, it was a pretty big farm to me, and he expanded that out and using the BBC as a way of actually went to high school for 2 years in England. The BBC, we heard a lot of that. So that is something, you're right, you hear it from all across, because they had the Commonwealth. They had the giant Commonwealth that they had from all around the world that the British had. So thank you very much, Colin. All right, next for number 2. Can I have a volunteer for number 2? Please, sir. This. All right, let me set this up a little bit here. Work and family obligations might be your top priorities, but having a hobby or two is essential in creating the work and life balance. Now, so I'll repeat this a couple of times. So what sports, crafts, or other activities would help you improve yourself and why? Again, what sports, crafts, or other activities would help you improve yourself and why?
Thank you. Mr. Table Topics, Matt, so that is a fantastic question. Let me tell you what happened to me today. I'm a customer success manager. One of my first calls was from a gentleman in Virginia. We're struggling with solar in Virginia. He decided to cuss me like I was not even a child of God. I handled it professionally. I said, sir, that's not necessary. But what I was really thinking is, let me verify your address, which I did later. And according to Google Maps, I can get to his house in 5 hours and 27 minutes from where I work. The thing that keeps me from the edge, the thing that keeps me sane, centered, and feeling like a real human being. And I'm not pandering. Trust me, is Toastmasters. The Toastmasters family allows me to come up, talk about the things that I want to talk about in speeches, 5 to 7 minutes, or in these short versions. And honestly, it's like therapy for me. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. I want to relay this so you understand. This is a leadership and personal development program. The people you are going to meet in this organization are phenomenal. The networking you're going to do is fantastic. And the friendships that you're going to make are without a doubt going to be some of the most advantageous of your life. Now, I know I had accountability to be nice, so I did. But, Mr. Tabletop Master.
Wonderful. This is a skill set, as the gentleman was saying there, that really is going to help us, particularly in being able to deal with other people, apparently, which is a great talent to be able to have, which I think sometimes I'm lacking in. But we'll go here to the next one. So I need a third volunteer. Yes, sir, please. All right, let's go ahead and set this up. You see it again there. Actually, all right, set this up here, right? Joining a training session class can add structure to one's learning experience. When you sign up for an extracurricular lesson or a company-sponsored training sessions, you can pursue hard or soft skills. Hard skills like, well, I can think of one like I'm a flyer or a pilot. And then like a soft skill would be like be able to communicate and be able to deal with other people. And that's getting help from an expert. So let me pose the question to you. Tell us what kind of training session class would interest you to take to improve yourself. So what kind of training session class would interest you to take to improve yourself and why? Thank you, Zinger.
I think that is a great question, and it should relate to everyone here. You know, everyone wants to join Toastmasters or sit down and listen to what other speakers have to say. And if I were to join a group that is out to help others become a better leader, speaker, a better mentor, coach, whatever that group has to offer, I think that will help me with achieving my goals, whether it's a personal goal, you know, in my career, in my personal life. So I think that speaks louder and helps benefit me when I'm seeking for that training moving forward, and with what I'm trying to accomplish. With that said, I'm grateful for everything I've learned. Leon, Chocolate Butterfly, Jamie Richardson, David Jones, and you, Bill. Thank you. I know everybody's name. You don't have to yell it. I'm definitely grateful for everyone's outspoken word and being able to teach me and help me out, be a better leader, speaker, and help me grow in my career. So thank you.
Thank you. Good job. All right, so he turns that great ideas there about using the friendship that we develop here and to expand that into to grow, which is exactly what we talking about, ways to improve ourselves. Now I need a fourth one, right? Here we go. Please come on up. There we go. Let me read off the question here to you. Let me set this up here. Is that if you're focused on advancing your career, identifying specific skills you need for advanced positions can help you improve yourself. In addition to standard abilities, pay attention to emerging skills that could help you gain a competitive edge. So here's the question. Tell us what kind of specific skills could help you improve yourself and why. I'll repeat it. What kind of specific skills could help you improve yourself and why?
Are we talking just professionally or personally too?
Sorry?
Are we talking professionally or personally too? Anyone?
Yourself, either professionally or in your family or in your casual, leisure, whatever.
Okay. All right. Oh gosh. So I guess I'll focus on personal. A skill that I could improve upon personally would be oh gosh, other than communication, potentially accountability. So something that came up recently at my job, because I'm a software engineer. So one thing that we deal with a lot is kind of managing your personal projects, being a leader within your specific industry, being a leader within your specific team. And I'm a senior on my team. So one thing that's kind of been stressed lately is accountability. And one thing that I've kind of noticed at the company that I work for, at least in the IT field, is that there are people who kind of don't take a lot of accountability. These are even people that have been at the company for a number of years. And not in the sense they don't do their job, but being accountable for others. So that's something that I would like to personally improve upon. So I recently bought a book called Extreme Ownership. You guys might know that book. It's by a Navy SEAL. I can't think of his name. Jocko Willink. And he basically talks about how you kind of had to own everything as a Navy SEAL, how you had to basically own the entire process from the beginning to the end. And just kind of reading that. Well, I haven't started reading it yet, but my plan is to read that book and kind of learn a little bit about how to be more accountable for myself and how to be accountable for other people so that I can kind of own something in its entirety so that I don't rely on other people to do other parts for me or blame other people when certain things don't go wrong. That's something that I feel like I can greatly improve upon. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kendall. That isn't this notion of ownership. Because so many times you see that people just away from things, you say, oh my God, why did they do that? And particularly, particularly as parents, we sometimes, I don't know how many guys, I have done this before where I have set my child, this was many years ago, they're grown now, they're older than some of you now, but set them in front of the TV as well, the TV will take care of for a little bit of time. Well, that's really not a good ownership, is it? Because you should be nourishing with them, not letting their mind run away with this crazy idea of what's going on the TV. All right, I need a fifth one. You got somebody else? Please, hold on. Oh, we're out of time? Sorry. Well, there you go. All right, well, thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Toastmaster Bill. At this time, I'd actually like to bring up our timer, Jeff Norris, to hold us accountable on how we did on our table topics.
Thank you. Very brave speeches tonight, everyone. And ironically, we did a very good job running the red light. So great job. Colin, I have you at 2 minutes, 11 seconds. Shannon, I have you at 2 minutes and 39 seconds. If Shannon's still here. Xavier, I had you at 1 minute and 40 seconds. And then Kendall at 1 minute and 54 seconds. Excellent job, everyone.
Okay, moving right along. I promised you 3 life hacks. Here is the third and final life lesson that can be learned from this simple pencil. And that is that the most important part of this pencil is the inside. It is what allows you to write your story. No matter how hard life gets, no matter how unfair it is, how many tests it throws at us, what defines our destiny is the strength of our resolve, the quality of our character, and the quality of our choices. The power lies within, right here, right here. Now, if it was one thing I wanted to press upon my son when we had that little heart-to-heart moment, and I was throwing these metaphorical inspirations at him, I wanted him to remember no matter what the outcome was for this test or any other test, that as long as he remained true to himself, a good, honest, trustworthy kid, that life would finally and eventually deliver him the A+ that he so wanted and so deserved. Speaking of grades, we're going to move on to our next portion of tonight's meeting, which I would argue is the most valuable, where we receive our constructive feedback, where we get better, where we can correct some of the mistakes so that we can improve our craft. That's why we're here, after all. And help lead us in that effort, I would like to please help welcome to the stage, serving as general evaluator, Andrea Chocolate Butterfly.
Hello, fellow Toastmasters. My job is pretty easy because this has been a wonderful meeting. And this is our time where we give feedback. And the feedback is to learn and grow, not to discourage and deny access. I'll say that. So today in that exercise, we're going to have a couple of people help me out. And they're going to evaluate our speakers for today who gave us some wonderful speeches, and I'm going to let them go into it, and then I'm going to give my evaluation after that. Okay, so the first person who's going to keep Miss Carla, he's going to keep Miss Carla accountable to being the great speaker that she attains to be would be Leon White.
Hi, how's everybody doing today? Good. Well, first and foremost, I must say, Dr. Carla Jones, it's an honor and a privilege to evaluate such a distinguished Toastmaster and to say that you are an inspiration to all of us to seeing what the possibilities could become if we commit ourselves and stay consistent and hold ourselves accountable to this Toastmaster journey. So I first and foremost want to say that. Now your speech, whose house? Our house. Phenomenal speech. I loved it through and through. Some things that I noticed that you excelled very well at was your use of props. The way you came up and pulled the chair in was, in a way, it drew us into the beginning of your speech. We were kind of like, where's she going with this? And through that, you even used, in a interesting way, you used the audience as a prop as well too, which was a different level of engagement that I haven't quite seen before, but I thought it was very fitting. Your acting and humor also in your speech. One of the things that I always love to see when people are telling stories or even role playing, which I almost felt that this speech was a form of role play, was adding a little bit of acting into it to bring the speech to life. And I noticed that you really excelled in that. And then also the call and response in the title. Now, I forgot the technical term of this when it's being used in public speaking, but it's the repeating of a specific phrase. And maybe in this day and age, we would call it a tweetable phrase, such as whose house, our house, very similar to the famous speech, I Have a Dream by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. The repetitiveness of the saying of the title, I thought was also very wonderful and eloquent as well. Some things that I noticed that I would like to see you work on is taking some time to get to know your stage a little bit more and its technology. I felt at times you were fumbling around with the mic and the clipboard in your hand, where you're sometimes using a mic and sometimes you weren't using a mic. And also David, our lovely technician, also got up to rearrange the camera. So maybe spending a little bit time prior to your speech to kind of work some of those things out, or maybe deciding to maybe use the hand-free mic for such an animated speech, I think would go a long way as well. Some things that I would like to see you to challenge yourself on as such a distinguished speaker, to hold yourself accountable, is I would recommend watching the recording of the speech to see if your delivery was the way that you wanted, to hold yourself accountable, to see maybe where some things are that you thought was going to go one way, but after viewing the recording, you might realize it didn't go quite the way that you want. Overall, it was a phenomenal speech. Your vocal variety, eye contact, the audience awareness, and the interest of the speech was amazing. And I look forward to seeing more speeches from you. Thank you.
Thank you again, Toastmaster Leon. So our next evaluator is Dr. Eric Laxer, and he's going to be evaluating Mr. Jamie Richardson.
Thank you, Toastmaster Andrea. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests. And good evening, Jamie. Jamie, I'm going to cover what I thought you did well, and then I'm going to offer you one or two suggestions of things that I think you can work on. First of all, let's start with what you did well. And you've heard of Sweet 16, but I'm going to divide this into 6 points, which I'm going to refer to as the Sweet 6, because I think all of them, which you demonstrated beautifully, are important elements of a successful speech. The first one that you did well was you had a great start. You asked the audience a question for a show of hands of who has seen the film Rain Man, and you immediately got the audience engaged in your speech, and I thought that was very well done. The second is your speech was very well organized. You clearly started with an introduction. You spoke to us about neurodiversity and you defined the term for us, which was very helpful. You introduced an outline. And then as you went through the points in your speech, I could see you holding up your hand and going through 1, 2, 3, 4, allowing us to follow through your speech with you. The third item was, I loved how you used storytelling. You weaved examples of real life people, Elon Musk, Temple Grandin, the person who founded Kinko's, and the person in England who had the astonishing memory capability, all of which made your speech even more interesting and something we could relate to. The fourth was your use of body language. Your hand gestures were excellent. I already mentioned the numbers. Not only that, but you didn't have a mic in your hand, and that allowed you to use your hands and hold them out and in to emphasize certain points you were trying to make. And I thought you did that very well. Number 5 is your vocal variety. I noticed that you had pauses in your speech at several times. And I also sensed a change in your vocal pitch when you were trying to make certain points. I know these are items you have tried to work on, which you have shared with me and us in the past. And I was very happy for you to see that you have clearly made progress in those 2 areas of speaking. And the 6th and perhaps most important point of your speech and what I think is a good speech is to teach the audience something of value. And I love the way you did that. The takeaway that I took from your speech regarding people with neurodiversity is, as you stated, people have different ways of experiencing the world. You encouraged us to consider these in our interaction with others, perhaps challenging us to bring more openness, kindness, and understanding to our interactions. And you shared an incredibly important quote, which I wrote down. How many innovators are lost to us simply because their talents can't be appreciated and perceived? If I were to offer you something to maybe improve your speech, which really is very little, might be to consider pulling the audience in through an emotion, perhaps asking us not only about Rain Man, but whether we've ever felt left out or not understood, or that people made us feel like somehow we didn't belong. And you would immediately have an even stronger pull for the audience. In summary, a good and memorable speech is informative, educational, well-organized, and leaves the audience with something of value. You did all of these things, and you did them very well. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster. Back to you, Madam Evaluator.
Thank you, no problem. I will not forget the timer today, so I'm going to call him up to give us a timer's report.
Very professional evaluations tonight from the both of you. Leon, I have you at 3 minutes and 17 seconds, and Eric at 3 minutes and 54 seconds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good thing we don't have our ballot counters. You are not just joking. So for those who don't know, we used to have a ballot counter, and we would say who had the best speech, or who had the best table topics, or who had the best evaluation, and they had to qualify. So when we are talking about those times, that is how you qualify. And Shannon was talking about the contest that we have, the international speech contest. You have to make the qualifications of whatever your speech time is. So if your speech is 5 to 7 minutes, you have to hit 7:29 to not be disqualified. And likewise for the others. I won't go through that and bore you with that because we've already explained it. And today's meeting was a very full meeting, a very enjoyable meeting. And I thank you all for participating, whether you were online, whether you participated in table topics, whether you clapped, whether you smiled, whether you laughed, whether you even said, whose house? All right. I thought y'all forgot for a minute. From the beginning of the meeting, setup was great as usual. Thank you, David, and everyone who helped David. Every time I come to the church, I look forward to being here because I know things will be done decent and in order. Whether David is not, because he's trained us all to step in his stead. But we use the mic properly today. A lot of people get this mic and they talk like this and we can't hear them. So a lot of us use the mic properly. I want to remind everyone, this mic is so that those online can hear us, not for the inner room. Okay. Today, we want to thank our visitors. Jeremiah, he led by example for his daughter, loved it. Stephen, he used this word, gregarious. And then Charisma, she persevered here and she was just in line and being accountable. That was her. She was being accountable, which happened to be the word of the day. So she got credit for that without even knowing it. Shannon, world champion. I'm gonna call you that from now on. So don't get mad at me because I'm gonna wear it out. Kendall, the option to say yes. So that was something, those things stuck out to me today from our visitors. And our inspirational, that truly belongs is the magic to be you and fly. That is my company, Be You Butterfly, Be Every Unique Butterfly. So that resonated with me from the top of the meeting. Y'all had my attention at the beginning. The pencil, I love pencils. Why? Because like God said, he put erasers on pencils for a reason. We're going to make mistakes. And, you know, the things that John brought up, the sharpening moments, today was our sharpening moment. The eraser, you might have done something today. You might have said, or whatever. So, and you didn't pause like I just did because I was about to say, again. You might have done that, but you can erase it. Try again better next time. And then it reminded me of this commercial, the Twix commercial where it says, what is your favorite part? And it says that stuff in the middle, that inside stuff is the favorite part about you. So I'm going to keep going. What else did I want to bring out? Today, our evaluators, awesome. 2 excellent exhibits of how you can do an evaluation. It was in our feed on yesterday that was telling people, our new members, you can evaluate. You don't have to be as organized as Dr. Laxer or as inspirational as Mr. Leon or as kooky as Andrea, but you can be you. So I'm encouraging everybody to take a stab at that because everybody's feedback is wanted and needed. And I wanted to really focus on Jamie. Those who don't know, my daughter is autistic. And when she was 7, she couldn't tie her shoes. She couldn't remember how to get to school. She couldn't, a lot of stuff. And she didn't let that stop her. She taught herself how to play a clarinet and the bass clarinet enough to earn almost a full ride in college. She is now a loctician and a prospering entrepreneur. So you don't know where your child can go or that person can go unless you give them the opportunity to do it. She told me, I can do it. I gave her the opportunity and she did. And she could have fell on her face. Like Carla was saying, she wasn't good at sports. You know, she could have fell on her face, but she didn't. And if I had just been that protective mom and didn't let her go any further because she's autistic, I would have missed out on seeing her prosper. And I just wanted to say, make sure you hold, oh, I already said that. Keep in mind of where this camera is. Everybody, not just one person, everybody. Make sure that you remember that the cameras are right here. They only have so much distance they can move them around. So even if you're trying to do what Carla did today, which was very effective and in-house, it brought everybody in. Make sure you position yourself where we can capture you and you can get that feedback that you want to see on the camera. And clarifying questions, that was great. You asked the question to make sure that you understood the subject before you answer. A lot of times we go straight in and try to answer a question. I recommend, it's something I do every time I do table topics. I stop. You have that time. You are not on pressure to answer that question right away. Take that time, hear the question in your head, and make sure you know what you're going to say. And you can even organize it in like 5 seconds. You can come up with 3 points. So that is your time to do that. So dropping gems, owning accountability, that's the theme of our meeting. And back to our grammarian, David Jones.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. All right. We had some good usage of the word of the day. Our Toastmaster of the day used it a couple of times. He was clean. You had some good pauses and no filler words. Carla Jones used the word of the day. She was clean, no filler words, but obviously we can all see she's an experienced Toastmaster. Jamie was fairly clean. When he used so, you use so's really big. You should watch, just like so. You don't mumble them. You own them. Bill used the word of the day as well as our Toastmaster. One good thing about John, as he said, table topics is a no judgment zone. And for the guests, that's what's important about this is there is no judgment here. We're all in this together. Colin, you had a couple of so's. Shannon used the word of the day, and he said Toastmasters is therapy, which it is. We get up here and we talk about things that we probably wouldn't talk about to other people. Kendall used the word of the day, and Kendall, you're a very good and confident speaker, but you do have a lot of filler words. So if you go to our website on the bottom left where social medias and hit YouTube, all these are recorded. You can go back and watch yourself, and you kind of see where you were at with that. Andrew used the word of the day and was fairly clean. Eric, no filler words. Leon, no filler words. You also used the word of the day. I think the word you were looking for was incantations. Incantations are when you hear something over and over again, such as if you go to Disney and you go to It's a Small World. That's an incantation. You're going to hear that in your head for days. And with that, I will turn it back over to our general evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster David. And I thank you for listening to my big old voice and squeaky voice. And thank you for remembering whose house? Back to you, Toastmaster John.
Thank you, Ms. General Evaluator. Excellent evaluation. Hopefully we'll all picked up something from it. We're running a little bit late, and I want to turn it back over to our presiding officer to close out the meeting. But before I do, I hope that perhaps I inspired perhaps even just one of you in this room, as I intended to do with my son, through explaining life lessons through this little thing, this one object, help remind you that you need to embrace resharpening. You always have an eraser, and that the most important part is the inside. So let's all go out and write around our own stories. With that, I'll turn it back to our presiding officer, who will be our president, Elvis Lopez.
Thank you, John. I hope you can hear me okay. I was having little technical issues at the beginning, but I hope everything is back where it needs to be. So thank you so much, everyone. I would like to ask one more time for a little bit of a round of applause for our Toastmaster of the day, who has done, again, an excellent job conducting us throughout this meeting. Thank you, John, for such an excellent work. I would like to also congratulate all these speakers and everybody who has participated today, been in our meeting and making it so special. With that, I would like to go back to our guests before I close out the meeting with some additional announcements. So, John, if you can help me out to pass on the mic to our guests to hear from them a final impression about the meeting as a whole.
Before we do that, because they did this for us for Mother's Day, we have a lot of fathers in here and we love you guys. It is Father's Day on Sunday. So I want every father in here to stand, whether you're online, raise your hand, whatever. We want to say happy Father's Day to all of you, because you guys are important and you mean a lot to us.
Our first guest.
Wow, what a great meeting we had tonight. First and foremost, I want to thank these two. I knew I would be sitting with Toastmasters, but not two comedians. So I really enjoyed tonight. As far as myself, I noticed when I give my introduction, I kind of just say something quick and pass the mic, but watching everyone speak at length makes me want to get better, to let the words flow better and talk a little bit longer on the mic. I will certainly be back next week, and I will continue to hold myself accountable. Thank you.
It doesn't. Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Every time that I get past the mic, I have like a little, little something in my stomach. So that lets me know that I have a lot of work to do, but I definitely feel like I have improved, especially even going up tonight. I did thank you for the feedback about the filler words. That was really helpful. So I'm gonna continue improving on that. But it was very good to I put my phone over there because I really wanted to listen and engage with everybody today, and I think that that was a good thing because it was a lot of really good words that were spoken today, a lot of good information, a lot of good energy. So I'm definitely gonna be back next week.
Like Kendall said, I learned tonight that well, based on what he just said, I learned that I'm not the only one who gets butterflies in their stomach when they, get the mic in their hand. So that was good. We're all human, I guess you could say. What I learned tonight was a couple of tips and tricks from everyone that's a little bit more comfortable with speaking some of their styles, a little bit of humor and misdirection there. Carla, a lot of engagement, very high energy. Jamie, masterfully, Jamie, Colin, masterfully kind of fielded the question and figured out the way that you wanted to answer. So it's a very, very educational. Plan to come back and continue to learn from you guys.
All right, Dr. Elvis. I think that's, I think
Thank
that
you,
is
Todd.
it.
We have
Put
another
Dr. in our mode.
guest.
Folks
Thank you.
online.
Right. Yes, we have Jeremiah.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. Unfortunately, my daughter was not able to join me, but I had a great time. I could hear everything very clearly. The video quality was great. I felt like I was in the room most of the time, except when I had to step out for myself. So thank you. I look forward to coming back and having my daughter with me.
You're both very welcome. Thank you for joining us, Jeremiah. And thank you to all of our guests for coming over today. I have two announcements, and this is for our members. The first one is we are only one goal left to complete the 9 goals that are required for our club to be a President Distinguished Club. We have one of our Toastmasters who will complete a level 3, and that is none other than our current VP of Education, who will give us a speech. And with that, we will conclude our goal number 9, and that will make us a presidential club, distinguished club, which was one of our biggest goals during this period. And the second announcement is next week, we will have our elections for our club officers. Please, all of our members, try to join us next week because we need to have a quorum in order to proceed with the elections. It's a quick process. It's going to be the 5 to 8 minutes at the beginning of the meeting. If you cannot join the entire duration of the meeting, please join even if it is online so that we can complete the quorum for the election. Our intention is that all of you can join us in our next meeting next week, and we have a successful succession plan starting July 1st will be which will be the installment or the period where the new officers begin. Again, a way to repeat what the officer positions are for those who are not very familiar. Please, I will invite you to go through Toastmasters International and ask for basically query the club officers, and you will see all of the positions, but those are President, VP of Education, VP of Membership, VP of Public Relations, Secretary, Treasurer, Sergeant at Arms, and also the immediate past president. All of the presidents will become a member of the board as the immediate past presidents for the next period. You are all eligible to participate, and you can actually exercise your accountability by opting for a position as a club officer. We encourage all of you who are willing to continue your leadership path to participate and volunteer for an officer position. So with that, If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either myself, Eric, our VP of Education, or David, or any of our officers who are present at the meeting tonight and next week. If there's no questions or any other announcements, I would just thank you again all for coming to this meeting and have a good night. This meeting is now adjourned.